Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really puzzling neurological condition. It's called Idiopathic Hypersomnia, and it's a world where sleeping, the one thing that's supposed to refresh you, actually becomes this constant, exhausting battle.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if sleeping more only made you feel sleepier? It sounds completely backward, right? But that one question, that counterintuitive idea, is at the absolute heart of what it's like to live with this condition, where the normal rules of sleep and rest they just don't apply.
So try to imagine this. You sleep for, 11, 12, maybe even more hours a night. But when you wake up, you feel like you haven't slept a wink. This isn't just, I'm a little tired today. No, this is a deep, overwhelming sleepiness that just takes over your whole life. It hits your job, your schoolwork, even your relationships.
Okay, so how can you tell the difference between just being really tired and having this? Well, it all comes down to following a very specific trail of clues. Let's look at the symptoms that point to something much, much bigger going on.
And these symptoms, they are relentless. We're not talking about needing a quick power nap. We're talking about naps that can go on for hours and you wake up feeling zero relief. Then you add in things like constant headaches, getting dizzy when you stand up, and this persistent brain fog that makes it almost impossible to concentrate or remember things. It's a full-body experience.
Now, here's a really key piece of the puzzle. It's called sleep inertia, or sometimes sleep drunkenness, and that's a perfect name for it. This isn't just about hitting the snooze button a few times. No, this is waking up into a state of deep confusion and grogginess that can last for hours. Get this, some people even do things on autopilot, like make breakfast or get dressed, and have absolutely no memory of it later. It's a huge red flag that something is really off.
So you can see, with all these bizarre and confusing symptoms, getting a diagnosis is, well, it's not simple. It really takes a serious medical investigation, almost like a detective story, to figure out what's truly going on.
Before a doctor can even think about idiopathic hypersomnia, they have to put on their detective hat. They have to go through a whole list of other potential culprits and rule them out one by one. Could it be sleep apnea? Could it be narcolepsy? Is it a side effect from a medication? They have to check every single box. So this whole diagnostic journey is a really structured process. It starts with a deep dive into your medical and family history. Then come the big tests. First, you'll probably do an overnight sleep study. That's the polysomnogram, where they monitor everything from your brain waves to your breathing to make sure nothing else is disrupting your sleep. Then, the next day, you do a daytime test called the multiple sleep latency test, where they basically see how fast you fall asleep for a series of naps. It gives them a really clear picture of just how sleepy you are.
All right, so after all that investigation, after ruling everything else out, what have we found? What's the final answer? Well, we've identified a very specific but also very mysterious condition.
And the most important word here is right in the name, idiopathic. That's just a medical way of saying we don't know the cause. So after all the tests, the fundamental reason why the brain is demanding all this sleep and getting absolutely no benefit from it is still a total mystery.
And to make things even trickier, it's incredibly rare. We're talking maybe 20 to 50 people per million. Because it's so uncommon, it's often misunderstood. A lot of people struggle for years and years before they finally get the right diagnosis, just because so few people know about it.
Now, you've probably heard of narcolepsy, and IH gets confused with it all the time, but they are very different. With narcolepsy, people often take short naps that are actually refreshing. With IH, the naps are long and totally unrefreshing. And remember, that severe sleep inertia, that's a hallmark of IH, not so much narcolepsy. The sleep studies also show a huge difference. In narcolepsy, people can fall into the dream stage of sleep almost instantly, which just doesn't happen with IH.
So, getting the diagnosis, that's a huge relief, but it's really just the beginning. The real challenge is learning how to live with this thing every single day.
And since we don't know the cause, we can't really cure it. So the entire goal of treatment is just managing the symptoms. It's all about finding ways to fight back against that constant crushing sleepiness so a person can get back some sense of normalcy and improve their quality of life.
So what's in the toolkit? Well, medications are the primary weapon. Doctors often use stimulants like modafinil to help promote wakefulness. But the really exciting thing is that recently, medications like lower sodium oxybate have been approved by the FDA specifically to treat IH. That's a huge deal, and it offers some real hope for managing this.
But, it's not all about pills. Daily habits are just as crucial.
Things like a super strict sleep schedule, staying away from alcohol, and being incredibly careful with stuff like driving, those are non-negotiable. And just as important is building a support system, whether that's asking for what you need at work or finding a support group with people who actually get what you're going through.
Which brings us to this final thought. For a condition that is literally defined by what we don't know, what's the most powerful tool we have? It's awareness. Just talking about it, just making people aware that idiopathic hypersomnia exists, that is the single most important step we can take. It's what drives research, helps people get diagnosed faster, and builds a world with better support for everyone living inside this endless sleep mystery.